Now is the time of our unfolding, the moment we shall all become as gods.
Space, the final frontier. So vast, so wondrous, so beautiful, so... Didn't I just do this a month ago? Well, either way, I love me a good space story. Sci-fi in general is just so amazing. Not just in its fascinating settings, but also in its ability to pretty much take any other genre, whether it be books, movies, TV shows, even music, and making it 100 times cooler by doing what it's doing, but in space. Western, horror, love, adventure, war, war, war. Whoa, oh, that's a lot of war. What you say? And that goes for video games as well. I mean, just look at all the oldest titles and you'll see them all as white blocks on black backgrounds, which is already enough to make it look all spacey. So you might as well add some aliens and a spaceship, and look what you did. You just started one of the best forms of media in all entertainment. Science fiction and video games are like almost synonymous with each other, as they both kind of transport us to some other world, allowing us to explore the far reaches of what is to us the unknown. Using these weird looking technological boxes connected to a screen as a sort of gateway. But you know, maybe that's getting a bit too philosophical. Let's get to what you clicked on this video for. Oh yeah, we're doing this. Halo, a series of games that are some of my favorites. Starting in 2012-ish, my brother got ODST for our Xbox, and though the campaign scared the shit out of my child self, the multiplayer instantly became a staple at our house. Brothers versus cousins, it was some of the best video game experiences I had as a child. Though I would kind of fall off the series for a very long time after that. It wouldn't actually be till like high school where I'd even start to consider myself a real fan of the series. And most of that is because of Halo Custom Edition. Somebody snuck it into computer class one day, and that was pretty much all we did until the teacher finally gave a shit enough to shut it down. Though I think he only cared enough because somebody made him. If you're curious if that affected our grades in any way, well, for 99% of the class, it didn't. Because everybody else cheated and got A's. Except for me, who said it went against my principles. At 16 and ended up getting a D after studying and trying my hardest. Even the effing teacher wondered, why didn't you just cheat? And I have never trusted a higher authority since. But Halo was really fun. And we played a shit ton of it, sparking my interest in the series alongside my discovery of a certain comedic parody, leading me to pick up Anniversary and 3 for the 360, though in the in-between times I was playing a little bit of Halo 4 and 5's Forge on PC. Then when MimCC finally came out on Steam in like 2019, that pretty much just locked it in my mind that Halo was one of my favorite series. Development for Halo started back in 1995, after Bungie had just released its hot new first-person shooter called Marathon. Marathon was developed on a modified version of the Doom engine, allowing its 2D sprites and visuals to appear as if it was 3D. Marathon followed a security officer as they tried to stop their space colony from being taken over by aliens. The game ended up being a huge commercial success, even being called the best action game of 1995 ahead of Doom 2's release. Marathon was released on the Macintosh and was basically revered as the system's answer to the PC's Doom franchise. And after that, it would become a bit of a mainstay with Apple products for a long time. After Marathon's success, it would be followed by 2 sequels. Marathon 2, Durandal, and Marathon Infinity. Bungie would have quite the success on their hands, and they were ready to get started on their next project. And after making 3 hit games based around humans versus alien conflicts, it was only natural that the team would move on to something new, something fresh. An alien versus human conflict. Bungie started work on their Marathon successor as a sort of extension on that series, which according to company co-founder Jason Jones would have turned out to be something along the lines of Quake. Concurrently, another team within Bungie were making their own version of Halo, internally dubbed Giant Bloody War Game, which would have featured more vehicular-styled combat, and the teams would flip-flop between Quake style and vehicle style till Halo finally settled on a real-time strategy game, or RTS for short. Now, as we all know, that wouldn't be what Halo would end up becoming, but it's funny how this idea would be revisited for the Halo Wars series of games. Well, after developing 2 RTS games known as Myth and Myth 2 Soulblight, Bungie would finally start work on their vision for Halo, using the Myth engine as a base. By 1998, the game would again shift in becoming more of a third-person shooter kind of thing, following this familiar-looking cyborg as he fought aliens in space. Pete Tamate, Bungie's then vice president, would then use his old connections at Apple to get the lead writer Joseph Staten and project lead Jason Jones an audience with Apple CEO Steve Jobs, who was so blown away by Halo that he wanted it at his Macworld event that took place in 1999, which is where the game pretty much became public knowledge as this cool game that Bungie was making that promised to have an open world, where you explored a floating ring in space, shooting bad guys in guerrilla-styled fights, and finding all kinds of cool alien creatures. Wait, why do I have Halo Infinite footage being played right now? Yep, things for Halo were looking bright. At least for those outside of the closed doors. For those behind them, Bungie was bugging the fuck out, since they pretty much were losing more money than they were making due to a glitch in Myth 2 that deleted people's files, and the team behind naming Halo were raising hell about what it should be called, with some wanting it to be called Santa Machine, and the others dead set on calling it Hard Vacuum. I'm dead ass, by the way. Those names were seriously considered, and you don't even want to know what the development name was. It was Monkey Nuts. Monkey Nuts! Why not Baboon Shaft, or Ape Sack, or Gorilla Balls while we're... Oh, wait, that's a real game. Now, to get out of their money troubles, they decided to whore themselves out to Microsoft, who needed a new hit title for their upcoming Xbox. And as for the name, it was settled on that it would become Halo. Though, part of the team thought it sounded too much like women's shampoo, and they would have preferred Kris Kringle Blowjob, apparently. Well, now with the name decided, and a steady source of money coming in to help fund the studio, you'd think that everything would be smooth sailing from here, right? Well, no. No, it was not. At this point, you're probably like,
Hey Chubby, Halo wasn't a third-person strategy game. When did it officially start development as a first-person shoot?
now.
What?
Like right around the time of the purchase.
Wait, did Microsoft even know that Halo was gonna be a shooter when they bought...
I don't even think Bungie knew at the time.
Oh. What? How long until the game had to come out? Jesus Christ.
Oh, to be a fly on a wall during any of the Halo games development cycles. Bungie had to cut out the open world and plenty of plot elements to make sure Halo came out on time. Even the multiplayer was gutted, then added back in 6 months before release. And not to mention the fact that this was a first-person shooter on a console, which nowadays is nothing, but I want you to picture yourself as a first-person enjoyer during this time period. Outside of a few N64 titles, the genre was pretty much non-existent on consoles. First-person shooters were a PC game thing. There was no way for a controller with a dong to have as much precision as the PC's mouse ussy. So what Bungie was doing at the time was safe to say a Herculean task. But they had an idea. You see, games like GoldenEye on the N64 had tried an experimental control scheme for console. Twin stick. Instead of just using one joystick and a D-pad, which was kind of ass, you could use two sticks instead, which allowed for much freer movement and aiming without having to choose which one to handicap. The only problem was, however, is if you wanted to do it, you pretty much had a double hand job two N64 controllers, which, let's just say, was awkward and clunky. But the Xbox had a modern controller that came complete with twin sticks, so it was the perfect piece of hardware to try this new idea on, with a generous amount of aim assist added to help bridge the gap from PC. Now, Halo may have been inspired by games like Quake and Doom, but Halo wasn't as fast-paced as those games, which led to a problem. Since in those games, you were running around like a madman at all times, it was easy for the devs to put health packs all over the arena to help keep a constant stream of life to the player. But Halo is a much slower game, so to make sure that the player didn't just rush into a fight and pray to find a health pack, the player was given a rechargeable shield that would protect their main health, which forced the player to take cover and watch enemy movements to try and learn their patterns. Especially since, unlike in Doom or Quake, the player was limited to only 2 weapons at a time, meaning they had to get good with what they had on hand or whatever the enemies did, which made them resourceful. This would go on to revolutionize how most modern shooters would treat health systems and weapon systems even to this day. Halo really evolved how combat in a first-person shooter worked, which is one of the many reasons it's still as revered as it is to this day. In fact, that's part of the reason why it's called Halo Combat Evolved. That and the marketing team didn't like the name Halo. Now I'm wondering how this game would have sold if it was called Monkey Nuts Combat Devolved. Probably like 20 times better. Now, Halo wouldn't be half the game it is if it wasn't for the level design. Halo levels are designed as a sandbox, basically a play area filled with fun gimmicks, weapons, tools, and enemies that can have a variable type effect on one another. You have different weapons and vehicles being provided to give a player multiple ways to approach a level, to the levels themselves being somewhat non-linear with either multiple objectives being active at the same time, or allowing the player to skip a majority of a level if they already know where they need to go. Though this does tend to allow glitches to appear more often than not. But honestly, that just kind of feels like another part of the sandbox. It's so funny when it affects real-time cutscenes and suddenly we have Schrodinger's keys, somehow dying and flying the getaway ship at the same time. These levels are at their most fun when you're just dicking around with different elements of the sandbox to do some wild shit, like fitting a warthog in a tight-ass hallway, or getting a banshee to fly straight to the end of the level, or maybe using a tank to blow the entire Covey battalion to Kingdom Come. Get shit on, you split-mouthed motherfuckers! I really like tanks, if you couldn't tell. But hey, back to those split-mouth... well, that's gotta be a slur. The NPCs in this game, whether they be helpful or hostile, are peak. The Marines are helpful little smart alecks that consistently take the piss out of most of the player's actions. As companions in battle, they aren't the most helpful, but they talk a lot of shit, so it's so funny to watch them bitch about you taking their kill, or go wahoo as you make a jump in the warthog. I love these assholes. It's not a real Halo game if there isn't a moment where you get to mount up with a squad of these dipshits, and then watch the chaos unfold as they either immediately get themselves killed, or they do something fucking awesome, and then they say the perfect one-liner. Did you guys know the villain from Alvin and the Chipmunks voices these guys? That little tidbit has been eating me up inside for who knows how long now. When I first put 2 and 2 together, I took psychic damage for a week straight, imagining the chicken guy with a chipmunk obsession doing the Marine dialogue.
Let's see. Our colonies are blown to hell, the Covenant have found Earth, and our last best hope is a guy in green metal underoos with serious friendly fire issues. I'm great!
And the pinnacle of all the Marines is Sergeant Johnson. We'll get a lot more of him later on in the series, but what we get of him now is phenomenal. Top 10 favorite characters right here. He's the wisest to ever crack. Even with all those ridiculous little one-liners he says, he always comes out the most respectable character in whatever room he's in. But again, he'll become more integral later on, so we'll talk about him more later on. But damn, he makes one hell of a first impression. But those are just the helpful NPCs. What about the ones we fight? Well, you see, the Covenant troops are just as talkative as the Marines, even when it comes to some of their weird-ass gargles. But what makes them special is in gameplay. There are 4 types of Covenant troop. We got grunts, which are the small guys that go down easily, but are perfect for distracting the player or surprising them with a rocket slime straight to the face. The jackals, which are more intelligent than the grunts, and their shields making them a bit more of a pain to go down, but again, they're just more of a distraction for the other 2 types of troops to really pick off the player. Such as the elites, who are smart enough to dodge out of the way when you press the attack, and strong enough to take on the chief in 1v1 combat, especially if they're wielding a blade, which is a one-hit kill for the player. Oh, and don't think you can just stick them with a sticky grenade and run, cause they have no problem letting it blow them up as long as you're in the blast radius. They will rush your ass. And then we have the hunter, who's the muscle of the party, packing tons of explosive power in their surprisingly fragile bodies, but that's what their impenetrable armor is for. And while you're focused on their overwhelming strength, that's when the rest pile in to take advantage of you. The enemies in Halo are dynamic. You can play a level 100 times and their plan of attack will be different. It even throws me off in some cases, and I've played this game a shit ton. It's actually really impressive with how their AI reacts to the player. However, they are not invincible. Grunts are fucking stupid. If you kill their leader, they immediately start panicking and won't even fire as they run in circles. And if you stick them with a sticky grenade, they just run towards the other enemies for help, killing them all in the process. It's hilarious. Jackals tend to panic like the grunts do, but that shield still makes them tough to kill. Unless you know how to make them drop their guard by either shooting their other hand, staggering them for a second, or busting the shield with plasma fire. Elites don't really have any obvious weaknesses, but they tend to gain them whenever they are a specialized unit. Sword elites can only kill you up close, and they take the shortest path to you, which, lucky for us, is a straight line right in front of your gun. So as long as you don't take your eyes off of them, they're easy pickings. And the invisible ones trade out their shields for stealth, which makes them much more vulnerable. Just watch out for odd shifting in the environment and you'll see these guys coming. Hunters are still fragile. Halo's gameplay does have its flaws, however. Most of the platforming in the game can feel really unintuitive to straight up awful. I know this type of gameplay isn't really what the devs had in mind for Halo, so it just kind of feels strange whenever it's in a level. Like, this jump in particular is always a pain in the ass for like no reason. I'm not sure if it's the container's model or maybe Chief's movements on it, but somehow 90% of the time I press the jump button on this thing, Chief either doesn't jump at all or does like a half jump. I'd ask how this part got past QA, but if what I read about the deadlines is true, then yeah, I can. The Warthog stuff can be pretty wonky as well. Look, I get that part of the fun is that this thing handles like butter in a hot pan, but whenever you have to do something precise with it, like make a jump, it becomes a huge pain in the ass. I love the Warthog run as a set piece. It's iconic. But as a gameplay element, it's annoying, and sadly this is not the only example of this in Halo. But we'll talk about them later. But what's a shooter game without weapons? That was rhetorical, but I appreciate the creativity. The weapon selection is amazing. Most of the iconic weapons of the series are here, though a few of them are exclusive to the enemies, or they're missing a few of their traits they'll get from later games. Still, you do have a good mix of close range to long range options, including 2 types of grenades and a few specialty weapons to keep the gameplay feeling unique and fresh. Though again, some of the more unique weapons aren't at their best in this first title. But you know what weapon is at its best here in this first title? The Magnum! God bless! This here is my favorite gun in Halo and gaming in general. What looks to be a normal little sidearm, oh, it's not little, this thing is way too fucking bulky to be little, but what looks to be a normal sidearm is actually the most reliable gun in the whole series. Not strongest, mind you, though you could totally make an argument for it, but it's definitely the most reliable. It's got a decent magazine, it can hit hard up close and at long ranges, and this thing will kill anything with one headshot as long as it's not shielded. The Magnum is so damn good, they spent the rest of the series neutering this bitch into oblivion. It's mostly useless from the next game forward, though there are 2 other Magnums in this series that I like just as much as this one. But fuck dude, this is where it peaks. And if the power wasn't enough, the design is amazing. It's too bulky to be realistic, but as a sci-fi gun, I love it to death. Especially when you get that black cherry skin in the MCC version. Ooh, what can I say? I'm totally into bulky ass models in old games. It's kinda like my aesthetic in a way, and Halo is full of blocky designs. Speaking of, the visuals of the levels are amazing, being so colorful yet so alien. It really gives them all this unique feel. Halo uses a lot of greens contrasted with purples. It's trying to give you the familiar earthy feeling with all the green foliage and natural landmarks on the ring, while also making itself not like Earth at the same time with all the strange lights, purplish fogs, and brutal alien architecture of the ring being so contrast to what we know on Earth. I'd say this applies to not just the levels, but the 2 sides of the conflict as well. The green, helpful Marines, and the purple, villainous Covenant. Green and purple are excellent contrasting colors that really pop up against one another. It's truly the work of a master designer to use such a contrasting color scheme. Like, who would even think to do something so brilliant and excellent and oh, who put that there? Ah, you little rascals. But really, Halo does look phenomenal in its color palette and level design. It has aged, but I like the games of this era with their blocky visuals. To me, this blocky look is kind of like an aged wine or cheese, you know? And I know a lot of people feel the same way, as you can see the look mimicked in plenty of indie games, and I just love how those look as well. Though I admit the ring can feel a little bit empty. Those cut weird little teacup T-Rexes and some of the other creatures really could have helped in that regard. What the fuck? Wolves? What do you mean, that is not a fucking dog, bro. And then we get to Halo's music, which is phenomenal. Like, seriously, what else am I supposed to say? You've heard it before, that religious choir being behind some of the most awesome sci-fi rock. It's unfathomably amazing. Like, I don't know what deity or demon that Marty O'Donnell sold part of his soul to get this type of melodic ambrosia, but like, dude, him and his team just knock it out of the fucking ballpark. I really got nothing else to add. Just listen to the soundtrack, especially that main theme. It literally speaks for itself. Something else that speaks for itself is that multiplayer. To call it influential would be the understatement of the century. Can you believe that they almost had to cut it? Halo with no multiplayer? Talk about a dark timeline. That would have been miserable. And as much as the campaign is as phenomenal as it is, Halo would never be where it is without that multiplayer to hook people in for the long term. Halo CE's multiplayer, when not just compared to the other Halos but in all of multiplayer gaming, is probably in my top 2, taking either spot depending on the day. I'm serious, by the way. I consider this the Mario Party of shooters. It's a bit jank, but it's overall just a solid multiplayer. Big team battle on Blood Gulch or any of those maps that are the size of a small country are so awesome. Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, Deathmatch, oh my god. I just love it. though most of the stuff from the multiplayer, including its online compatibility, comes from the Gearbox port of Halo, which included new maps, mod tools, and even new weapons in the fuel rod gun and the flamethrower. So thanks Gearbox for introducing online multiplayer to Halo, and also for being the sole reason the original would be kneecapped in visual quality in all re-releases till 2021. The fuck, man? Though maybe they're not really to blame as much as the other port of Halo, the Anniversary Edition. Oh my god, look, I'm not qualified to go into extreme detail as to why the Anniversary version of Halo is stinky doo-doo dog ass, but I can tell you my own personal thoughts on it. It was a poor first impression. You see, the Anniversary version was created by 343 as their first release as the new heads of Halo, well, more like it was headed up by 343. It was actually Saber Interactive who were really the ones making the sausage for this project. They were given the instructions to make a new version of Halo with the exact same level design, enemies, dialogue, gameplay, the same damn game, just a new coat of paint. And let's just say the timetable they were given to make it was strict.
Hey, that sounds familiar. I bet Bungie would have had a ton of good advice on how to...
They were forbidden.
What?
Microsoft was still in mourning after their little divorce with Bungie, so they literally stopped all communication with Bungie.
But this was a Bungie game. Why would they even... Wait, hold on. How much time did they have to make this again? Oh, what the fuck?
Well, with incredibly limiting factors weighing on their conscience, Saber did their best to make a new version of Halo CE. And by that, I just mean they slapped a half-ass coat of paint on it. Given the time frame and artificial factors weighing on them, they really didn't have the time to do their best work. And they were even forced to rip assets from Reach and 3 to help development go faster. But before I go into detail on why it's pretty much worse than the original, I have to give it to Saber. Their idea of having two separate versions of a game running at once that the player could switch between at any time was actually really freaking genius, and it's like a miracle it works as well as it does. It's probably the most impressive feature I've ever seen in a remaster, remake, fucking anything. It's just too bad that the new visuals are, for the most part, kind of a downgrade. A lot of the color schemes of the original levels were practically ruined. A lot of the Forerunner stuff is now overly detailed and looks ridiculous. A lot of the horror elements of the campaign are completely ruined by the bright color scheme just straight up revealing shit you're only barely supposed to see. But at the same time, all the colors are so muted it's now harder to see the enemies that are shooting at me. The nighttime levels look like they're in the middle of the day, the cutscenes look cheap and broken, and the new visuals don't match the level geometry they're layered on top of. Meaning you have what looks like to be a clear shot, but nope, fuck you and fuck your health checkpoint. Honestly, there are some really cool looking design changes made in Anniversary that I do like from a visual standpoint. But they don't match the context of the level and the stories they're layered on top of. And if you decide to switch to old graphics, you're met with the Gearbox shit, which has its own fucked up changes. It really sucks, cause at the time, Saber was a small studio who were huge fans of Halo. Their head at the time even said it was an opportunity that they could not miss. I do feel really bad for Saber in this situation. It must have been a heartbreaking development for those poor Halo fans. But thankfully, they got a second chance and they fucking knocked it out of the park. But we'll go over all that next time. Nowadays, we have the MCC version, which thankfully fixed a lot of these issues, at least in the Halo CE part of Halo Anniversary. And it adds in all kinds of new cool cosmetics, more accessible ways to play the multiplayer online, skulls that let you remix the original's experience, and even mods if you believe it. No doubt in my mind, if you want to play Halo, get the MCC, it's so fucking good. though the PC version can't do local co-op, which is stupid. But hey, one problem out of a whole bunch ain't too bad. Just make sure you're playing the recent version of MCC, because if you're playing the launch, Spark have mercy on your poor soul. Honestly though, if you ever get the chance to play a Halo campaign in co-op, you definitely should. Some of my best Halo memories come from these, and I've never even beaten a campaign this way. We always just start doing something else that's funny, and the Halo sandbox is perfect for this. It's just so amazing. Oh hey, I guess it's time for story. Skip here to avoid all story spoilers for Halo CE and Anniversary. Halo has got an amazing story, and I really think you should see it for yourself, so if you haven't played it, skip here. If you have played it, settled in. This is why this video is so fucking long. The year is 2552 CE of the Galactic... CE? Aw, y'all think you're funny, don't ya? Anyway, it's a long time in the future, and we see a huge ship hopping out of slip space. The ship is called the Pillar of Autumn, and it's owned by the UNSC, the United Nations Space Command. Basically the human faction of the current in-space war between the UNSC and the Covenant, a religious group of aliens trying to wipe out any race that doesn't believe as they do. The Autumn had just jumped from a planet called Reach, which was being invaded by the Covenant, though we'll learn more about that another time. The Autumn was doing its best to escape the pursuing Covenant ships, but it had to stop due to the damages it sustained in battle. Lucky for them, they happen upon a strange ring world that they may be able to escape to. The captain of the ship, Keys, tries to weigh his options with the ship's AI named Cortana, but the Covenant were able to outspeed the Autumn, ambushing them in orbit of the ring. With the ship's damages being too severe, the captain decides that he needs the help of the recently freezer-burned Master Chief to help repel the Covenant and keep Cortana safe from their alien hands. Chief fights his way through the Covenant on the Autumn, saving as many Marines as he can before launching towards the ring in an escape pod, with the captain and his burning ship close behind. As Chief wakes up on the ring world, he is met with a half-dozen of corpses. He was the only survivor of his escape pod. But what happened to the others, you ask? Well, you see, Chief was the only thing on the pod that wasn't strapped down, and due to the turbulence of the crash and the fact that he's in a 10-ton suit, it stands to reason that he probably...
Double kill, triple kill, overkill, kill, tack kill, Trosset, Kilimanjaro. Holy shit!
Hey, I know that's just a fan theory, but you can't tell me that's not what happened. Now on the surreal ring world with its formations that clearly aren't natural, Chief and Cortana need to find a way off of it, saving as many Marines as they can from the Covenant soldiers, who seem to have a strange interest in this floating ring. Well, a stranger interest than, a normal amount of strange interest that would come from seeing a fucking artificial ring world, but, still strange. I talked a little bit about voice acting earlier, but you want to know who carries this series' voice work?
Sure. The entire fucking cast. Every one of them do a great job, and even the characters people don't like are still voiced fucking good.
But you want to know who... I don't know how to segue into this. Steve Downes' Master Chief and Jen Taylor's Cortana are not just the heart of CE's story, but most of the franchise as well. Their banter between each other, the way they bicker, the way they're both just in sync. Master Chief being a man who acts like a machine, and Cortana, the machine who acts like a human. It's a really fun dynamic that grows throughout the series in a lot of different ways. Some interesting, some controversial, and some... But for Halo CE, it's more of a comedic double act that really fixed the "Oorah, shoot those motherfuckers!" that the first half of the campaign revels in, with its typical war movie type scenarios and Chief and Cortana getting to be the smart aleck heroes, just fighting through it all together. Their dynamic is so fun that Microsoft even gave you at home a way of mimicking it with its own version of Siri, in your own version of Cortana, who even has Jen Taylor voicing it. Which, is kind of interesting, but too bad they got rid of it in 2013. Well, maybe not too bad. I don't know anyone who uses these AI assistant things. But wait, first half of the campaign, If the first half is the typical war stuff set in space, then what's the other half? Well, my friends, that is when Halo goes from great to fucking stellar. As Chief and Cortana are fighting across the ring, they happen upon the ring's control room. And at first things are going well, you know, they're bantering back and forth, Cortana's sharing information about the ring that they now know as Halo, and Master Chief's all like, that's neat, but what kind of weapon is it and how do we use it to kill the Covenant? You know, cause he's just a soldier and that's kind of all he is right now. Cortana calls him a barbarian and says that the Covenant are right that this Halo is something special and was probably created by the Forerunners. And before Chief and the audience get a chance to ask what the hell a Forerunner is, Cortana starts reading off more information with the music slowly growing more sinister. Shout out again to that soundtrack, it's 10 out of 10 work. But then Cortana reads about a thing the Covenant found and it's freaking them out for some reason. And then she starts doing that thing. You know that thing when you're reading an article or something on your phone in front of a group of people and they're just watching as your face slowly just turns as you're reading, and it's like, it starts with a oh, and then it goes to oh, and then it goes, oh, fuck. And Chief is like, what? And Cortana's like, there is no time to explain, you gotta stop Case from opening Pandora's box, you gotta haul ass, man. And Chief is like, ruh-roh, and Scooby-Doo runs out of there, it's hilarious. But it's also crazy because this whole time there's like no tension, or at least no tension like this. This is, you know, this is supposed to freak the player out a bit. Cortana went from her usual confident self to freaking the fuck out. I didn't even know AI could feel fear, but she just did. Here's another spoiler warning for y'all. The next half of the game is way, way better experienced on your own. Trust me, it's worth it. The next level starts with the Covenant running for their lives, and it's this dark, foggy swamp area. Unless you're in Anniversary, in which it's all bright and neon, which actually looks really cool, but you know, it kind of fucks up the mood, guys. And as Chief is making his way through the swamp, he keeps seeing these friendly tags on his radar that fade out as quickly as they appear. But if you manage to catch a glimpse of them, they don't look human at all, which is so freaky. Even freakier when you get to the underground bunker and there's blood fucking everywhere, and it's only Covenant soldiers lying on the ground. Yeah, it's not human blood, but it's blood all the same. And there is no signs of human activity anywhere. What did all of this? And as Chief goes through these blood-stained halls, witnessing this strange green fog and this massive test tube lava lamp thing, he finally finds something he can talk to. It's a Marine! You know, the Marines, those lovable goofballs that are always so happy to get into action and fight alongside the Master Chief.
Stay back! Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things! I'll blow your brains out! Get away from me! Ah! Ah! Don't touch me, you freak!
Yeah, whatever did all of this turned our happy-go-lucky companions into a sniveling mess on the floor, begging not to be taken, screaming and crying like the devil himself came to steal him away. Okay, now things are getting real. Real quiet, that is. As it is nothing but silence since you either left the screaming Marine to his fate, or you heard the gunshot you used to put him out of his misery. And after walking these silent, cold, once sterile, twice stained corridors, you're met with the final piece of the puzzle that makes all of this make sense. As the music finally starts to play again, Chief opens a door with the corpse of a Marine falling on top of him. He carries the poor thing out of danger as he takes the Marine's body cam footage to shine some light on what happened. Everything starts out great. The Marines are in the Pelican talking shit and listening to the Halo version of Fortunate Son. It's the typical ooh-rah! But then they head inside the bunker and they start taking the same steps Chief did. They find blood and they find dead Covenant well, they do if they actually spawn in the cutscene.
Friend of yours?
Yeah, imaginary maybe. But it's all the same steps except for one. The last one. Chief watches as all the Marines are overrun by a horrific parasitic creature that morphs their corpses into horrifying blob monsters. Before the video cuts out, and Chief sees he's in the exact same room, and now the monsters are after him. Chief does his best to cut through the ever-increasing ranks of monsters as he tries to escape the bunker, and he even witnesses the beast cut through Marines and Covenant alike. For every one he kills, 2 more pop up from behind him to try and kill him, and take his unstoppable Spartan corpse. As Chief brings the fight above ground, he is met with some unexpected help in the ring's very own defense system, the Sentinels, and their leader, the Monitor, also known as 343 Guilty Spark. Spark tells Chief that he has a way to combat the Flood, but he'll need Chief's help, or as he says, the Reclaimer's help. Who's the Reclaimer? No time to ask, as the two have to hurry up, because if they don't stop the parasite, now known as the Flood, they will find a way off the ring and will devour the whole galaxy. Those are some huge fucking stakes, my dude. The Monitor teleports Chief and him to the library, a place where a certain key is located that will activate Halo, which will wipe the Flood from existence. Chief fights his way through the Flood-infested library, with the Monitor just kind of goofing around like this all isn't a huge deal, and keeps complimenting his own genius and even the fact that his creators thought keeping Flood symbols on the ring was a wondrous thing for science. He even fucking laughs when you die. What is this dodgeball's problem? Also, he keeps alluding to the fact that the Chief is underpowered to face the Flood and he should have been better prepared due to protocol. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Well, after obtaining the index, hey! Rude ass. Well, Chief and the Ball get the index, so they head back to the main console, and here we get one of my favorite character interactions in Halo. As Chief is about to press the button, activating the ring and flushing out the Flood, Cortana pops out and is like, "The fuck y'all doing?" And Chief's like, "We're about to kill the Flood and save the universe." And Cortana's like, "Oh, did he tell you that? Your new little friend? Your buddy? Your pal? Your new dodgeball partner? Did he also so happen to tell you how it kills the Flood?" And Chief is like, "Well, I guess not." And the Monitor is freaking the fuck out because this is not how this happened last time. Wait, last time? And then Cortana proceeds to explain a devastating plot twist. The ring doesn't kill the Flood. It starves them to death. As in, it kills its food. Which is us. This fucking thing kills all sentient life in the galaxy down to the fucking amoebas. Chief obviously turns on the Monitor because that would have been key information to have before he pressed the doom switch, and the Monitor is losing it. He's dead looking at Chief like, "You didn't have a problem with this before, Reclaimer. You asked me if I was in your shoes, would I do it? Would I press the button?" Cortana plugs back in the Chief and snatches the key and is like, "We gotta go now." It took over 1 billion years of pondering, and my answer has
Never changed.
And like that, we now have a 4-way fight for the ring. The Covenant, the UNSC, the Flood, and now the Monitor, with Chief right there in the middle of it all. The next few levels are fucking crazy, as Chief is now fighting 3 factions of enemies at once. Lucky for him, the 3 don't really like each other either, so they'll kill each other just as fast as they would Chief. Though don't break a sweat, if you're in the vicinity, they'll all dogpile your ass. So don't be afraid to pull a Godzilla and
Let them fight.
This second half is as chaotic in story as it is in gameplay, for better or worse. There's no getting around this. The Covenant are expertly developed to be fun and interesting to fight. To do that for 3, technically 4 if you ever go rogue, factions would be a huge ask. Which is why they didn't. The Monitor's group is fine, you know, it's just the one kind of Sentinel and they're pretty easy to take down, and they even give you its weakness in plasma weapons the first mission you fight them. And if you don't have a plasma gun, then don't worry, they're slow as fuck, making them easy targets. As long as you don't let them gang up on you, they're not too bad. The Flood are fucking awful to fight. Since I already mentioned plasma weapons, let me clue you in on the difference between human and Covenant weapons. Forgive me as I am not an expert on this, but I do know enough to explain my points. Human weapons are for the most part fast hit-scan projectiles, perfect for shredding up an enemy health bar. Covenant weapons are for the most part slow-moving and very visible compared to the human weapons, but in exchange they do a lot more to shields. And since a lot of the enemy forces carry plasma weapons, it gives you a chance to pick up their weapon and give you a better means of destroying shielded enemies like elites or jackals. The fast hit scan weapons were made with the inherent inaccuracy a human player has in mind, and that's why they shred things so fast. The Covenant weapons are made to be slow enough to be avoidable if you're a good enough player, due to the inherent accuracy an AI controlled character has. Now, what if you had a perfect accuracy AI with a fast-moving, nigh unavoidable human weapon? And there was like 20 of them in a cramped-ass room. You'd get fucked, that's what. The Flood are awful to fight. They have a huge advantage that the player cannot account for. And in levels like the library, they are literally never ending. If this was a movie, these would be the most terrifying creatures ever, but since this is a game and I have to deal with them, they are nothing but an ever-expanding migraine of an enemy. Fuck these guys, fuck the invisible ones, and fuck those goddamn rocket floods. I cannot count how many times I've turned a corner just to be met with a rocket that I had no feasible way of knowing was there. I'd ask if they had time to playtest this part of the game, but you already know they fucking didn't. The Flood comes so close to ruining Halo. In gameplay, I mean. In story, they are really interesting and I love everything about them. Especially when they get a voice in the next game. The Flood as a storytelling concept, I'm convinced is the sole reason anyone wants these fuckers back. They suck. Well, after escaping the reach of the Monitor, Cortana tells Chief that they need to destroy the ring while the Flood is still on it. So they come up with a plan to blow up the Autumn, which should cause enough of a domino effect that will destroy the whole ring. But first, they need a little help from Captain Keyes, who's, let's say, seen better days. The Flood took over his body and mind, so they can use his memories to learn how to fly ships off the ring. Yep, they absorb memories and skill sets by eating people. Jesus Christ, that's horrifying. So Chief puts another friend out of misery while also grabbing the keys to the Autumn systems. Oh, come on, that's kind of funny. By the way, the hole we put in him is grotesque in the anniversary version, and I love it. After obtaining Key's cybernetic implants, Cortana and the Chief make it to the ship just to see that everyone has beaten them to the punch. Flood, Covenant, Sentinels, they're all here and they're all trying to get in your way. Especially the Monitor, who I guess is invincible cause, you know, fuck you. After an infuriating grenade puzzle that either takes between 5 to 40 minutes depending on factors that are out of my control, seriously, the one time I could use a rocket flood and it's nowhere to be seen, come on. Anyway, the Autumn is set to blow, so Chief and Cortana hop into a Warthog and race across the exploding vessel. On the way, they meet up with an old friend named Foe Hammer, who dies. You know, I should probably be feeling like kind of sad right now, but honestly, I'm just trying to figure out where this weird bridge piece is on the Autumn. Anyway, Chief and Cortana make it to an old starfighter, escaping Halo as it explodes, lamenting all of those who have died, and the fact that they are the only survivors. Well, them and like 3 other people. Cortana sighs and says that at least it's all over, but Chief takes off his helmet and corrects her, saying that this is only the beginning. And that's the story of Halo. The second half is kind of whack, but only in a gameplay sense. In a story sense, it takes an amazing story and just shifts into turbo. Oh! But you know, there is a lot of like lore drops that aren't really explained all that well. Like, what are the Forerunners and all this Reclaimer stuff? And what exactly is the UNSC and the Covenant? That stuff was kind of just duct taped over when Bungie had to gut the game to release it on schedule. But honestly, those kinds of things would have kind of bogged down the story in my opinion. So I think it was a wise decision to kind of just throw the player into the middle of a galactic war and let shit get crazier as they go along. Letting the future titles and spin-off books just kind of fill in those details, at least for now. Kind of like how Star Wars did when the first movie came out in 1999. Fourth movie? It has 1 in the title! I wouldn't really recommend this for your first playthrough, but maybe on a second or third, I'd recommend checking out the terminals added in the Anniversary Edition. They go into some cool lore stuff behind the monitor and how he went crazy, and it's really interesting. But I could totally see a first-timer just not understanding any of this terminal shit. So maybe just watch them after you get into Halo a little more. I think my favorite one is with Keys being possessed by the Flood. It is, Jesus, something you've got to see for yourself. Halo CE is fantastic, even to this day. Gameplay, fantastic. Level design, fantastic. The designs of everything in general, it's fantastic. Most of the enemies are great. The story and characters are literally iconic. I highly recommend the original Halo, especially the MCC version. It's got the most content with even more on the way, including some of the beta elements of Halo, which is incredible. Plus online multiplayer and mods, so duh. It'll run you about $10 on Steam and about $40 on Xbox, since you can't buy the 4 main Halos separately on that platform. But hey, if that's too much for you, don't worry, cause MCC is on sale more often than not, so if you're looking for it, you'll definitely find it for cheap. If you get the chance, Halo CE is definitely worth it. Especially if you got yourselves one of these Duke controllers. I low-key have always wanted to try one of these puppies out, but it was before my time. Though thankfully Hyperkin came out with a modern version that even has little extra shoulder buttons added on. If you're not interested in the official extra buttons, but honestly I don't care, I use them both. I am low-key sad that the original color got sold out. I mean, I got the color green and I like it, but that original was really nice, and so was the Cortana one that I could have got, but I said no because, I don't know, green is more Xboxy to me. And I can't tell you why, but I hate how this one looks. I mean, it's both of my favorite colors in one controller, but I just hate how it looks. Also, fuck. Man, if you can put aside the fact that your hands will hurt after using this thing for like 30 minutes, I think you'll find that the Duke is peak controller design. It's like holding a brick with buttons and I love it. Halo CE was built with this controller in mind, and it just feels so right to play it this way. MCC even has a Duke button layout specially for this, so it's like the official best way to play Halo. And that's coming from a nasty ass bumper jumper like me. I don't know what kind of crack Japanese devs were on in the early 2000s to look at this controller and go, ew. But their lack of brutalist and straight dog shit design sensibilities has forever stained the industry, and I will never forgive it. Who wants a comfy controller with HD rumble that does nothing but waste the fucking battery, when you can have a neon brick that hurts to hold? We have gone backwards in controller design, and it pisses me off. I've used this for Pokemon, Halo, Metroid, Exoprimal. This shit is top tier, and I won't hear any different. And as long as we're on the subject, I should just make a whole fucking video about this. I should do that. I literally miss some of these older controllers. The Wiimote and its weird dildo shape fucking, ugh, that shit was amazing. And also the gamepad, like you can't tell me, the gamepad, nobody used it for shit, but it was cool. Fuck. Halo's great, go play it. So, after Halo CE came out and rocked the world from top to bottom with its inventive gameplay and genre-defining mechanics, its story, its characters, its fucking twin sticks, Microsoft, the fans, and even Bungie themselves were insatiable with their need for a new game. So, the team got to work, and in 3 devastatingly short years, we would get it. Halo 2. A game that is said to be one of the greatest of all time. It got mostly perfect scores all around the industry, and the multiplayer became a cornerstone for not just online play, but competitive gaming as a whole. There were even a bunch of crazy ass promotions being done, such as a whole ass alternate reality game based in a URL that was revealed at the end of Halo 2's theatrical trailer, known as I Love Bees, which at first seemed to just be a website about beekeeping turned into this viral thing where players all around the globe had to work together to solve puzzles, to reveal new bits of information about Halo 2. They even went as far as to release navigational coordinates and times to be at those places, so that the players would find phone booths and speak answers directly to a pre-recorded message, which is wild on its own, but then you add in the time a player stood his ground in Florida against a Category 4 fucking hurricane just to answer into the booth. One, that guy is fucking awesome and a true testament to the Florida Man legend. Two, shout out to the operator who broke character just to tell him, dude, it's a hurricane, put the phone down. Like he doesn't already fucking know that. I hope that bastard got a signed copy by Master Chief himself for that shit. Also, fuck I Love Bees, man. Y'all just couldn't change the location for the riddle? I think a hurricane's a pretty good reason to call shit off. But then again, if they had, this man wouldn't live in his glory, so I don't know. Apparently there was a recording of this interaction, but like most of this stuff, it was lost to time, as most great legends go. Though their spirit and their soul tends to always remain. Shout out to that guy who fought a fucking hurricane all to hear what is essentially a Snapple fact about Halo 2. You, sir, are an inspiration and will forever have my respect. Oh, shit, right, we're talking about a video game. Hold on. When development of Halo 2 started, the team at Bungie already had some ideas and improvements that they really wanted to add to it. Most of which just being ideas that were scrapped during Halo CE's rushed development, such as the online multiplayer. But all that really wasn't enough to satiate them. They wanted to make everything at least 3 times better. Better visuals, better gameplay, better music, the whole shebang. And they would do anything to make this dream a reality. And so the monkey paw curled. The game was officially revealed in September of 2002, with a release date planned to be winter 2003, only 2 years after the original. It did not make that. They did, however, have the game's first gameplay showing be in 2003, where it took place at E3, where Johnson uttered the now infamous quote.
This is a real-time feed. No smoke and mirrors pre-recorded bullshit.
It was entirely smoke and mirrors.
Hold on a minute, Chubby.
Oh, look, a recurring bit.
We all know about Halo 2's development and how awful it was. Do you really need to go through it like you did in the first video?
Well, you know what? I guess you're right.
Yeah, I know I'm right. Everybody knows this shit.
You don't have to. So instead of all of it, we're just gonna cover some bullet points. Wait, now hold on a minute, because I don't think y'all really understand how bad this shit was. 1. There was no one plan. Like the first game, the idea started in multiple smaller circles before coming together and clashing in the dev room. But unlike last time, there was no direct leadership. One of the co-founders of Bungie left, and the other one was burnt the fuck out after last time. It was an absolute war zone of ideas. Then 2, they completely remade their engine so that they can make the better game, which is when Microsoft comes in and is like, hey, I heard you're doing an online multiplayer. That would be perfect for my Xbox Live service coming out in 8 months. Do you think you can have it ready by then? Dude, we just fucking started up. Well, we own you, so you're gonna be forced to do it. We just need the studio head to give his vote on the matter, but we can't seem to find him. I will jump off this fucking building. He did not threaten to jump off the building. I will leave this fucking company if you don't give them more time.
Fine, but only a year. But CE took like 8. Not my problem. 3. The story was getting fucking crazy due to the stress and a writer's recent breakup. It got to the point where Key's daughter straps a bomb to Master Chief and then shoves him into a portal as revenge for her father's death. That is crazy, but not as crazy as the fact that they, 4, after showing the E3 2003 gameplay trailer, pretty much just scrapped and redid most of the game after realizing that most of those last 2 years worth of work was unusable. And they weren't allowed to release it on the upcoming 360 in 2005. So it had to be out in holiday season 2004, leading to 5. The mother of all crunches. The team sacrificed so much of their lives for this game. The design lead had to kennel his dog for 2 months, and he and most of the staff had to sleep under their desks in the final days before the game went gold. 6. This is not even the tip of this iceberg. There was so much that they had to cut to get this game out. They started with lofty hopes but ended in what they thought was a shallow game. A shadow of what they wanted. I honestly thought that nobody was going to buy it, because the stuff we had to do at the end of the project felt so gut-wrenching. But luckily, nobody saw how it was before, so for them, it was like all the stuff we took out just doesn't exist. That quote is from Paul Bertoni, the design lead who had to kennel his dog and sleep under his desk, and would eventually go on to compare the development to a death march. Just about the whole team had a similar thought behind this game's development. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's how it goes. Could you imagine if they never spoke out about this game's development? Most of the community would have never known, as this game was considered a masterpiece with a few little valid complaints. If they never spoke out and weren't as open as they were about all the crunches, I think our views on crunch as a whole would be a lot less developed than it is. Which, you know, is really saying something, because it's not exactly great right now either. I don't feel like continuing this bit. Can I just... Yeah, man, don't worry, your check's in the mail. If you ever find the time, I really recommend the official documentary on Bungie's YouTube channel. It leaves a lot of the worst parts of the development out, but it still couldn't hide all of it. It's actually a really eerie watch, as it sort of acts like a timeline for the dev team at the start and at the end of development. And knowing what I know now, it's almost like a found footage horror movie about a team in the depths of development hell. Ooh, now that's really scary. Good thing I was already watching this on Halloween. The most disturbing part, which is entirely unintentional I'm sure, was when it was playing that 2000 song that goes, "The reason is you," over the fans cheering over the demo. Like, God bless, that's super fucked. Yeah, I have no idea how to transition away from this, so let's get into gameplay! Yay! So Halo 2's gameplay is quite the step up from CE, in some ways. In a few other ways, it's kind of like a little worse. But the basics are pretty much the same. It's a first-person shooter inspired by Doom, but it's much slower paced and has a more cover-based, what's the word, layout? Level design. This time, however, we are without a health bar, with Chief and our new character using only their shields as their protection. The shield this time around actually recharges a lot faster to compensate, but it also drops a lot faster, so I think the shields are a bit too weak in my opinion, which on its own isn't really that much of an issue, but combined with the more aggressive enemies and the lack of cover in some sections, I do think it makes the game a lot more challenging in a way that I'm not entirely sure was intended. Though I do like how this change will simplify the health system in later titles. It's just the first outing is kind of eh.
We got a few new weapons, including the battle rifle, which pretty much just replaces the pistol from here on out as the main weapon the player will use for long to mid-range encounters. As a gun, I really appreciate its sleek design and its 3-burst fire, really setting itself apart from the CE pistol, which needed to be nerfed quite severely to make room for the newest mechanic added to combat. Dual wielding. This new mechanic basically allows the player to use 2 different weapons at the same time as long as they fall within the dual wielding class. You can't dual wield sniper rifles or shotguns, but you can dual wield pistols, which, yeah, I can kind of see why you'd want to nerf that. Can you imagine a double CE pistol? Yeesh. Or we got weapons like the new SMG, which replaces the AR as Chief's main close-up attacker, especially if you pair it with a Covenant weapon to shred meat and shields at the same time. Now, the concept of dual wielding has been quite controversial in Halo for some time now, with some feverishly wanting its return in a new title, and others just kind of wanting it to stay gone for good, due to how it really nerfs certain weapons into obscurity. If you ask me, I kind of agree that it needs to stay gone, or at least come back with a little bit of a rework. I understand why it's so beloved. It is extremely cool on paper, with how you're basically using 2 different guns at once from a wide selection, and the outcome being dependent on the combo, which is a really fun idea, and y'all already know how much I love creative gameplay like this. But to have it, you need to nerf the dual-wielding weapons into oblivion so it's not the only thing people use. Let's go back to the pistol. I understand you want to make the BR seem like a good option, so you nerf its competitor who was wildly broken last time. Especially now that you can dual-wield said competitor, I really do understand that. But the damn thing is worthless now. On its own, you're not killing much outside of a grunt or 2 with a headshot or 2, as anything bigger will take the whole clip and then some to kill, even while dual wielding. And in multiplayer, you might as well not pick the bastard up at all unless you care to hit 8 consecutive headshots with 2 of them. Why even have the bastard at this point? Just cut it if you're gonna make it this bad. All the dual weapons are nerfed to be as half as effective as they were before, so if you only got like a single one of these weapons, it may be better not to use it at all. Especially if you want to use another gun like the battle rifle or shotgun, cause you drop the offhanded weapon when you switch to it, which is really fucking stupid. Can you not just carry 3 guns, dude? Like, all that $1 billion armor and 3 guns is too fucking much. I will admit, I am a bit biased because I am a huge pistol fan, and I think it could have been fine alongside the BR as it was in CE. With a few little nerfs, just shorten the range and axe the scope, it could have been fine. But it wasn't only the new dual-wielding weapons that got nerfed, my poor shotgun got it so bad. This thing feels like it should have the nerf label on the side of it, the way it just barely peppers enemies anymore. The fuck am I gonna use in close range now? Oh, fuck. Yep, that's right. We get the addition of the energy sword in this game. This close range weapon is practically unbeatable in close range, with its one-hit kill only being blocked by a sword of your own, or a quick dodge from you the player. Or maybe if the lunge decides to be a bit wonky, it'll do that from time to time. But beware, as that same wonky lunge can turn this weapon from a close range combatant to a mid-range massacre. This puppy is as dangerous as it is fucking cool. I love that this weapon is now usable. I guess the only thing to really mention weapon-wise would be the rockets now having a homing option, but I didn't really find this particularly useful. I can kind of see why they got rid of it. Vehicle-wise, we actually got a few new ones, and the now drivable Covenant tank, the Wraith, plus their own Warthog in the Spectre. A new variation on the Warthog called the Gauss Hog, which replaces the Rocket Hog, which kind of makes me a little sad, but that railgun is way better. The Ghost and the Banshee now have their signature boost abilities, which is cool. And I guess there are some other vehicles we could discuss, but they're mostly just set dressings for levels they appear in. Yeah, I'm including this big bitch in there as well. Don't worry though, we'll get to her. The Covenant this time around worked the same as ever, this time with two new types of troops. Drones, which are pretty much just flying grunts, which instantly makes them 20 times more threatening, which is probably why they're never paired up with any other enemies now that I think about it. And brutes, which are essentially just elites, except they got a rage mode that makes them charge at you, which is kind of annoying, but I honestly really dig their Yeti type look and savage mannerisms, especially compared to the elite's honor and elegance. Though we'll go into more about these two later. Brutes and elites, that is. The bugs are just kind of there, story-wise. This game was also the first to introduce the skulls into the series, which allowed you to remix the campaign with certain effects to make the game more challenging or funnier or both, so go wild with these, I love them. The visuals this time around are kind of... okay, look, I admit that I am a sucker for those old blocky designs. I think they'll always have that classic video game look, you know? It's the simplicity, it's the bright colors, it's the funny movements, it's the fact that as a game dev in training, they're way easier to make in Blender or Blockbench. It's for a lot of valid reasons, and I'm sure somebody can say the same about these graphics, because for the time they were groundbreaking, but man, did realistic games tend to age like dirt. I'm not going to sit here and insult this though, that is completely unfair to everyone involved and the game itself. But I'm not really a fan of how awkward this game can look sometimes, and I'm not talking about how the models or the art style don't age as gracefully as their more blocky counterparts. That stuff is all fine honestly, and I really do think this game can be very impressive at points. I don't hate how it looks. Except for that dank ass color palette they have for a lot of the game. It's either that metallic ass gray or that shitty tan filter you see in movies when they go to Mexico or something. Where's all the fun colors from last time? Where's my green, my purple? Why is the Covenant using burgundy now? And why is there dust in the goddamn spaceship? Look, they'll use a much better palette in some areas, mostly later in the game, and those look fucking brilliant. But that early game looks rough. I know the first half is set in this war-torn desert city and a dusty looking gas world, but put some diversity in there. Nobody said a gas giant had to be piss yellow. And real life Mombasa is not a deserty place, bro. It's a tropical beach resort. The fuck happened in 800... oh. I'm not gonna call the graphics bad, especially if we want to talk art style or architecture. I think those are very well done, to be honest. But this look for a good chunk of the game is just so... Part of the reason is a cool shading technique they wanted to use, but they never got it to work, so they had to ship the game as is. Sadly, like most of the problems in this game, I don't think it was the developer's intention. Oh boy, we're getting sad again. Alright, let's move on to music. Now, I'm not even sure if I should even put these sections of my videos in this Halo retrospective, since they all boil down to me just praising and hyping it up like it's the best shit ever, which it fucking is, by the way. I mean, damn, that new version of the Halo theme with the guitar riff, oh, fucking euphoric. And don't get me started on how they got Breaking Benjamin to write "Blow me away, I will stay in the mess I'm in." If you somehow never heard this song, I absolutely recommend it. The instrumental version they played during that one level was like fucking magic. Though I don't understand why it never got released outside of the Halo 2 soundtrack till like 2010. I'm not a music guy, so y'all have to let me know if that's how things usually go for the industry. I guess the only other song I want to speak on is this one from the Banshee section in the early game called Follow. I actually really like the song, but it's so strange hearing something like it in Halo. Like honestly, if I just played this song to you without the footage or the overall context, would you be able to tell? The funny thing is that 2 Anniversary actually changed the song quite a bit, calling it now Follow in Flight. And I think this is one of the only songs they did that to. It's much more heavier, I guess. Either way, both versions are good. It's just so strange to hear this kind of music in Halo. But maybe that's just me not listening to all the soundtracks enough. Speaking on Anniversary, you're probably wondering how well it worked out this time. Well, my friends, Saber knocked it out of the goddamn park. Grand slammed this bitch. The game looks fucking beautiful. All the sound effects got redone to be more verbose with modern hardware. They even got Blur Studios, who's worked on everything from Sonic to the Avengers, to do all of the cutscenes, including new ones they added to tie into the upcoming Halo 5, which we'll get there.
Damn it.
This is how you do a remaster, paying respects to the original game by updating it with modern visuals that enhance what was there before. Sure, there are some liberties taken, but nothing that's more than a minor nitpick. Though I really don't mind when liberties are taken, it's just important that they fit what the game is, you know? The gameplay isn't hampered in any way by mismatched geometry or bland color schemes. This remaster actually fixes a lot, if not all of my problems with the game visually, especially when we get to some of the later parts. I think you could say that this is the definitive way to play Halo 2, and little to no one would argue that. This is a fantastic remaster that took everything that worked with the first one and fixed what didn't, while also respecting the original game's vision. I don't know how different the development was for this game, but with the quality of the content given, I'd say it must have been a lot more forgiving than last time. Or at least I hope so. Not every second verse needs to be same as the first, if you catch my drift. Those cutscenes though are probably the best Halo has ever looked in like anything. It's a little jarring when it switches back to the in-game graphics, but who cares, they both look so good! And if that wasn't enough, we get a full Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer, with weapons from later games added in, all kinds of new customization options, including a wild as hell bio armor, some Gundam armor, the OG Chief design, and a full Forge mode. God bless! But hey, speaking of multiplayer, this is a game that introduced the Xbox Live functionality to the franchise, allowing console players to talk shit and battle each other over the internet. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, with tons of racial slurs. Though I wouldn't know, as my first online game was Splatoon, and that thankfully didn't have voice chat. Though thinking of those squids shouting slurs is kind of funny. What, you thought I was gonna actually make them say slurs? Hell no, they're just doing their little squeaky squish noises, you fucking freak. Though nowadays, if you decide to play multiplayer, it's actually quite rare to find anybody still being a little bitch in the chat. Well, not that rare. Remember kids, don't be like Cupcake here when you can be like Jeb instead.
It was a graveyard smash.
But what I really want to talk about multiplayer-wise is how this game and Smash Melee pretty much brought on esports as we know it. The first televised event of the sport was in 2002 with MLG, but things didn't really get happening till about 2006, and guess who was right there in the limelight? Halo 2 has been described by many fans and devs alike as the catalyst for modern online multiplayer gaming, which led it to get huge in not just the casual scene, but the tournament scene as well, especially with how games like Halo 2 and Melee had such high skill ceilings, but not just their base gameplay, but the more advanced techniques that you usually only see the best of the best do. In Halo 2's case, it's button combos. These were to Halo as wave dashing was to Smash. They're not really included in the modern scenes, but back then they were crazy techniques that the devs didn't plan on including, but yet still they changed how the entire game was played. To some for the better, and to others for the worst. I'm not gonna weigh in on this as I'm not really a competitive gamer, though I did consider it for one certain fighting game, but that never ended up happening. Though the history of Halo can't really be discussed without its place in the competitive scenes. Again, for better or worse. But it's pretty much a mainstay from here on, and you have 2 to thank for that. But how do I feel about 2's multiplayer, anniversary included? It's good. It's not really my favorite out of the Halo lineup, but I have a lot of fun with it. I know that's really short compared to how much I went into Halo 1's, multiplayer. But like I said before, that's like one of my favorite ones. This one, I really shouldn't rank these. I'm gonna get blasted in the comments if I do. And with that, it's time for story, and oh boy. If the last one needed 2 spoiler warnings, this one's gonna probably take like 5 at least. But fuck it, I'm just gonna put 1. Skip here to avoid all story spoilers for Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. Seriously, this has been described as the best story in the series, and I think it's important you play through it for yourself first. Though whether you agree or not on it being the best story, I definitely think we can all agree that it's very thought-provoking. We start on a destroyed Halo ring, watching as the Covenant retreat to their HQ, a space station city battle fortress known as High Charity. Here we see the leader of the Covenant operations on the ring being dragged to these important-looking Brachiosaurus slug people that are the heads of the Covenant, known as the Prophets. They discuss the failure of this elite, and the Covenant and the crowd are not happy at all that he let the ring, which is apparently a huge part of their religious great journey, get destroyed. The elite begs to have a second chance against the humans, but is denied. He failed, and when the great journey comes, he will be left behind. We then switch things over to the Chief on a space station in orbit of the planet Earth, where he is currently getting a new set of armor after the adventure last time caused severe damage to his old one. Ah, here she is, the main look for Chief going forward. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the OG look for Master Chief, but this new one is iconic. It's so damn cool, so I can't help but love the redesign. After getting all situated, Johnson comes in to pick up his date for the special ceremony being held for those who fought on the ring.
So, Johnson, when you gonna tell me how you made it back home in one piece?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
My ass!
For real though, how did you get your ass off that ring? And did you bring your new friend with you? You two seem to have a lot of chemistry. Chief and Johnson head to a tram and they discuss how long it's been since they both seen Earth, and how this new defense grid they're standing on is an amazing deterrent against any sort of Covenant invasion. Well, I say discuss, but Chief as usual is pretty silent during this part. The two make it to the ceremony where they meet up with their old friend Cortana.
You look nice.
Thank you.
And 2 new characters in Lord Hood, the head of the UNSC, and Amanda Keyes, the daughter of Captain Keyes from the first game, who is here to collect a medal in his stead. Back on the other side of the galaxy, as our heroes from last time gain their medals, this elite seems to be losing his as he's being tortured to a roaring crowd of onlookers, directly paralleling the heroes getting their cheers from a happy crowd. Though things don't stay happy for long as a Covenant armada shoot in from slipspace heading towards the planet Earth. Keyes, Chief, and Johnson jump into action to fight off the Covenant, while Cortana stays behind to play with her brand new toy, a 120-foot railgun that packs a serious punch. After an interesting level that involves us killing the Covenant in the hangars and taking a spacewalk around the giant gun, the first part of this conflict ends with the Chief grabbing a Covenant nuke and riding it into a nearby cruiser. After that, the fight is taken to Earth, where the Covenant seems to be excavating around a nearby city, though Cortana seems to be picking up a strange signal coming from their comms. One thing they learned from this signal is that this invasion is much smaller than the one on Reach, which is odd for an attack on what they should know to be the human homeworld. But she's also hearing a single word be repeated. Regret.
humanity. We regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
At the same time, our elite friend is brought before the prophets once again, who are as slimy as they are manipulative, using the elite's want for redemption to place the mantle of arbiter upon him, effectively making him a suicide trooper to be sent in on their most dangerous missions. His first one being going to slay a true heretic who seems to be inciting rebellion. Arbiter, which is how we'll refer to him from now on, is given a troop of soldiers to fight alongside him, though they're not exactly cool with him at first, and the Arbiter going through his own guilt trip kinda agrees with them.
These are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not. That makes two of us.
He's not really feeling his Sunday best right now. Once they make it to the base of the heretic, they start going through it, and oh yeah, we actually get to play as the Arbiter. There's not really much different between him and Chief except for the HUD, and Arbiter having a brief invisibility that he can activate for a few seconds, but hell yeah, playable elites! And you even can be one in multiplayer, minus the invisibility of course. This is another thing that fans want to return, but unlike dual wielding, I fully agree. This is a fun customization option and I really like it. Kinda wish we could get playable brutes as well one day, but hey, one thing at a time. Well, as Arbiter makes his way through the heretic's base, he sees the same strange mist and spores from the ring, and when we hear some screams going off in the distance, it's pretty clear what's up. The heretic brought flood samples from the destroyed ring, and they've somehow gotten loose, giving the Arbiter a brand new problem to deal with. Back on Earth, Chief and Johnson are now engaged with a massive Covenant war mech, the Scarab, which is cutting through their forces like a hot knife through butter. Chief and Johnson eventually pin the thing in a nearby canal, and after killing its pilots, the thing explodes. What? You thought there would be more to this thing? Well, bad news, because you're right. This is one of the things that had to be severely cut back on when they made cuts during development. But hey, if there's a bright side to all this, this is really one of the only few times where you can actually feel where any cuts were made. They did a really good job covering up the holes, but there are one or two more that we'll get to later. Arbiter finally makes it to the heretic leader, but he locks himself away in his little hidey hole. Arbiter, who's pretty done with this whole situation by now, uses his sword to cut the station from its floaty bits, sending the entire thing into free fall into, well, gas giants don't really have land, but I don't know, a super condensed core? Either way, he sends them all down to a certain death, which makes the bastard jump from his hidey hole, and he makes a mad dash to the hangar where Arbiter meets him. Here we see that the Flood wasn't the only thing returning from the ring, as the living dodgeball himself, 343, appears. Arbiter wonders why what he refers to as the Holy Oracle is working with the Heretic against the Great Journey, and this is when 343 and the Heretic try to explain to the Arbiter that that was all lies made up by the prophets, and the true purpose of the rings is to destroy. Arbiter seems to be receptive to this new viewpoint, but before things really start to click, we hear the click of the Heretic's guns as he fires on Arbiter, which is probably the dumbest thing you could do right now since you almost brought him to your side, but fuck it, whatever, get sushi'd, bitch! After defeating the Heretic, Tartarus, the leader of the Brutes, shows up to rescue Arby and the dodgeball.
That is the Oracle. So it is. Come, we are leaving this system.
Chief and crew are now back aboard Key's ship, making their way to attack the Prophet of Regret on his capital ship. But before they can get aboard, the bastard starts to rev up his slip space engine, with our human protags following him into the slip space portal, leading them to the surprise of a second Halo ring. They land on the ring and man, is this place pretty. This level right here with all the ruins and underwater sections with its own set of ruins, it's so pretty and relaxing. I could totally vacation here, to be honest, though maybe I feel like this because I was watching a Hazel video about relaxing Pokemon locations while I recorded this section. That probably did rub off on me a bit, but really, look at this level. And an anniversary especially, it's so pretty. Especially when those invisible enemies start mixing with those gorgeous water reflections. Oh man. Check out Hazel's channel if you're into weeb shit. She does a lot of good stuff. I really love her work. Damn it. I'm freaking relaxed now. This place is just so nice and pretty and peaceful. Anyway, this level ends with us brutally beating the Prophet of Regret to death with our bare hands. All those fucking guns, and we still got up close and personal with it. I love it. Also, thank God Keys sent some other troopers to take care of the library this time. I appreciate that immensely. Especially since we're already going through some similar notes already to stop the Covenant from activating the ring. Though as Chief leaves the Prophet's new tomb, he discovers the approach of the entire Covenant armada, including the Holy City High Charity. Which, you know, is bad. But not as bad as the fact that he's snatched up by a giant hentai tentacle and dragged to the bottom of the ocean. What a way to end a level, dude. Just what the fuck were they on? Oh, right. Back on High Charity, the Brutes are revealed to have taken over the role the elites once served as the Prophet's protectors, after the race's recent failures with the First Ring and the Heretic. Afterwards, Arbiter is sent to the Second Ring to prevent the humans from blowing it up, and it's here that he is informed that the Master Chief is also on the ring.
The human that killed the Prophet of Regret. Who was it? Who do you think? The demon is here?
Oh shit, they refer to him as Demon? I mean, of course they would after all the crazy shit he's done, but man, that is such a cool detail that they see the Chief as an unholy force of nature. Which, if you know the lore, isn't really all that far off. It's just not a demon type of unholy, more like a Frankenstein's monster of unholy.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
Anyway, Arbiter and the Brutes are sent in to take care of things, dealing with the Flood and the Sentinels as they make their way into the library. Even dealing with a much larger boss Sentinel and getting the chance to use the Sentinel Sentinel Laser, which is probably not all that great of a weapon outside of its flood killing speciality, but hey, I think it's pretty cool. Another thing I really like about this level is when you're going through the library, the Arbiter actually gets to listen to the Marines' comm channel. And the Marines are freaking the fuck out, pretty much exactly like they did during the Flood's introduction in the last game. Like, it's like we're watching that super horrific cutscene, but we're listening to it in real time as it's going on. The Marines are super confident, they all start getting picked off one by the Flood, then they all get overrun, everything goes batshit insane. It's so cool. I'm so glad they did this. This is such a cool detail for the level. After that, the Arbiter meets up with the Shipmaster from earlier in the game, and he mounts up with him and some elites in a kick-ass tank sequence to prevent Johnson and Keys from shutting down the ring with this ring's index. Haha, Keys is the one who goes for the key. That's pretty funny. Well, either way, Arbiter ambushes the two and captures them and the index. Though he never does make it back to High Charity due to Tartarus betraying him and taking the humans and index for himself.
And the prophets learn of this, that they will take your head when they learn. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
And with that, the Arbiter has been fully betrayed by the Covenant he swore his life to. As he resigns himself to his death, he is taken away by the hentai tentacle, waking up in a strange room with the Master Chief being strung up nearby. And a giant, disgusting blob of flesh, wishing to speak to them both. Ew, he looks terrible in OG graphics. Can we just... Oh, there we go. Look at all that bloody ass flesh and teeth. Now that is what I call a zombie hive mind. He is perfectly disgusting in Anniversary. Arbiter really isn't keen on wasting his time to this abomination, but Chief would prefer if we didn't piss it off. The blob introduces himself as
I am
which I'm sure looks terrible on a business card, but he clarifies that he is the grave mind, or the mind part of the Flood hive mind. He's basically their boss and is the one who's controlling them on this installation. This is actually what the Flood were trying to form keys into back on the first Halo, if you were wondering what all that shit was about. He fills Chief and Arbiter in on what the rings actually are, and reasons that if the Covenant wins, we all lose, so hey, why not work together to stop them? The Arbiter is reluctant, of course, but all the same, him and Chief are sent away by the Gravemind using the ring's teleportation grid. They're sent on the two places where the index might be. Arbiter is tasked with heading towards the ring's control room, and Chief is sent to High Charity. Chief starts fighting through the Covenant capital city, but he keeps getting interrupted by swarms of Sangheili rebels fighting the brutes who took their positions. Though don't worry, as both have no qualm about jumping your ass if they see you get too close to their fight, so, watch out for that. Arbiter meets back up with the crew from before, who have now gathered up some other species to fight alongside them in their brute rebellion, including this guy and his hunter friends, who he's very excited to fight with, but they ended up running over him like 5 seconds later. Damn, that's what you get for getting attached too soon. Fucking same, bro. Meanwhile, Chief is fighting through the war zone when he witnesses a UNSC ship crash into the city. And sadly for him, it's not full of helpful Marines, but instead full of unhelpful Flood. The Gravemind is a traitorous dick. Quite literally, actually. I mean, just look how he's shaped. But again, he's not really the top threat right now, and Chief makes it to see a prophet leave one of his brethren behind as he heads towards the center of the city with Chief close behind him. Arbiter makes his way through the brutes, meeting up with Sergeant Johnson in possession of a fucking scarab. Ooh rah! With the two teaming up to stop the brutes and blasting a hole into the control room, where they see Miranda being the key to activating the ring. They try to talk Tartarus down, but he refuses to betray his religion, and a fight ensues. It's kind of okay. Boss fights in Halo are always kind of trash in my opinion. But hey, his hammer is pretty cool, and you can make the fight go a lot faster by bringing a whole ass Banshee into the arena. It's over, Tartarus. I have the high ground. Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb. Fuck you, Banshee bomb! After enough nukes, Tartarus falls, and Keyes does a cool little action thing to try and catch the key. Yeah, fuck it, you get it at this point. She grabs the key and shuts down the ring before activation, though Sparky does come in to inform us that there are way more than just 2 rings, including something special known as the Ark. As the final prophet escapes into a ship in the middle of the city, Chief gets ready to go after him, but Cortana wishes to stay behind, reasoning that she needs to be here so she can force the crashed ship to explode like in the first game, destroying the Flood-ridden High Charity and the ring. She refuses to risk a remote detonation due to the severity of a problem the Flood are to the galaxy. Chief promises to come back for her.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
The two say goodbye as Chief just barely makes his way to the Prophet's ship, riding it as it returns to planet Earth. Hood is about to open fire before Chief confirms that he is on board.
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
And that's where it is. Huh? What a fucking cliffhanger! Oh, I thought you left. Yeah, but like, why did it end there? What about Chief? What about the Arbiter? What about Cortana? Well, she's actually shown in the end credits scene promising to answer some questions the Gravemind had, but what about look, dude? I know it's a real cliffhanger and the devs know that too. They didn't mean for it to be this way, they wanted to finish the fight. Hell, the original plans had the entirety of Halo 3's story packed into this one, which is crazy. But they didn't have the time or resources, so they had to make the best of what they had. Joseph Staten has even been quoted as saying that he hoped the ending would be an Empire Strikes Back sort of thing, to get fans excited for what's to come, and oh boy were they. But this was controversial when it first happened, and I get that. But let's be happy that the game was such a success anyway that they got to finish the fight at all. I'm gonna go play Halo 3. Alright, see you there. Now, all of that aside, what do I personally think about the story? Well, I, like most people, think that the story is the best in Halo. The dialogue is so funny and badass when it needs to be. Not to mention the introduction of the crazy manipulative prophets in the Gravemind, who's very intimidating and lore-wise really cool, but just kind of exists in the game. He's being built up for next time, so I guess we'll discuss him more then. Otherwise, I can go on describing each of the character details and how much they add to the overall adventure. Everybody here is amazing and their actors are doing a phenomenal job. And the character that exemplifies all of this perfectly is the Arbiter. He is a phenomenal character that at first was low-key hated for taking time away from Chief, but now nobody will shut up about how they want him back. Which, obviously, yeah, he's one of the only characters with an arc in these games. Arbiter or Thel Vadam or Thal Vadami, I don't know which one's correct, but the Arbiter was extremely loyal to the Covenant, carrying out mission after mission, but one failure was enough for them to throw him away. And then after that, he was forced to stand against what he was once loyal to save all life in the galaxy. That must have been so hard for him. I mean, we've all had a crisis of faith before, and you don't even have to be religious to have it. It can be anything you love or put your love and trust into that betrays it. Arbiter refuses to believe the Covenant could be a problem until it pushes him off a cliff, and then the truth is shoved right in his face, and even then he refuses. Also, I know that's not truth, but you get what I mean. He fought so hard, and it led him down a path that kept his people enslaved for thousands of years. In the new terminals added in Anniversary, we learn a lot about the Arbiter and the title in general. It's a bit of a jerk off, to be honest, but we learn so much about how the Prophets bent the Sangheili to its knees, and took their grand title of Arbiter and made it something to be spat upon. Now with Thal at the helm, it serves as a new freedom from the Prophet's control. With his blade that he now severs the chains, he now calls his factions the Sword of Sangheili. That's so badass! No wonder everyone loves this guy, and Keith David as the VA, oh god, it's perfect. His voice is so deep, so strong, but also rings with a bit of pain. It's what makes him so good as tragic characters like Goliath, or Spawn, or Gary?
Hello there, Papa Bob.
Arbiter is the glue that ties this game's story together. This is really more his game than it is the Chief. Without him, this game wouldn't be half as interesting. Which makes it all the more sad he's just in the background after this. I get why in newer stuff, but in like Halo 3? We'll get there. Halo 2's story absolutely feels like it was cut together in a strange collage-like way. But the original did the same thing, and somehow I think both led to really good stories, especially in 2's case. And that's Halo 2, a brilliant game despite the hell it took to make it. Man, that's gotta be so weird for the original developers. Everyone always praising how wonderful and inventive the game is. And the ones who made it probably can never look at it in that light. It's tragic. But we'll get to see more of their vision next time, so let's not dwell on this too much more. Halo 2 is a fantastic game that I highly recommend. It has one of the best stories / character arcs in the series, though I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite campaign, and that mostly comes down to the gameplay. I'm not really too big on how weak your shield is, especially on higher difficulties, and I'm super not into dual wielding outside of it being a cool visual. And the brutes are just kind of which is disappointing knowing the role they're supposed to be replacing. But in that same breath, the controls are so much more tighter and snappier, in a way that you can see why this was the one to bring the competitive scene to Halo. outside of it being the first to be playable online. Or second to be playable. You fucking get it. The music is stellar and the art, God, it has its hiccups, but if you're playing an anniversary where they had the chance to touch some things up, I think you could argue that this may be one of the best looking games, especially those cutscenes in the series. And oh my God, the terminal with the grunt uprising is amazing. Those little fuckers can mess shit up with the right motivation. Halo 2 is amazing, and I can't wait to see where we go next. So after Halo 2 came out and rocked the world, both figuratively and very literally with that kick-ass soundtrack, wonderful gameplay features that elevated online multiplayer gaming to where it is now, both in a competitive and casual setting, not to mention being the ultimate cautionary tale as to what the world of game development can really be when everything goes wrong, the team has decided, we need a fucking break. Jason Jones, the second head of the two heads of Bungie, went on sabbatical for a good portion of development. And since the first head left the company during Halo 2, that left the studio with a lack of direction for what their next title should be, which, you know, is exactly what happened with the first two Halo games, and I just don't know how we didn't learn this lesson yet. But either way, development got started on their newest title, the third and possibly final game in the Halo series. Halo was never meant to be a trilogy. 2 was supposed to finish the fight, but it had to be cut halfway during development, which was devastating for the team then. But now it gave them a pretty good jumping off point for their next title, and that next title is what many consider to be the ultimate first-person shooter. Halo 3. Alright, cut to the chase. Excuse me? Halo 1 and 2 had some weird shit going on during their developments, and you already started with the whole needing to learn a lesson thing. What happened this time? Oh, nothing really. I knew it! I knew some... Wait, really? Yeah, other than some like tension between Bungie and Microsoft, which was a long time coming, but we can go over that some other time. Halo's development was smooth sailing. Well, maybe smoother sailing would be more accurate. But you know, there was no massive, crazy deadlines. Everything got made, tested, and polished before release. They even had time to come up with DLC and make around 4 documentaries based on the game before it even came out. Which, yeah, is kind of odd to think about, till you realize that Microsoft was banking hard on Halo 3. They spent $40 million on the advertisements alone, making all kinds of crazy short films and commercials, with some being extremely iconic even to this day. They wanted the game to appeal to those outside of the Halo faithful, so they had to extend their marketing reach to, well, reach them. They even did the alternate reality game thing again with something called Icarus. But to be honest, not as much information online about this one as the Halo 2 ARG. And I wonder if that has something to do with the complete fucking disaster that happened during it. For real though, I hope this time they were a lot more conscious about where they laid these hints. That hurricane thing had potential to be a real lawsuit. Well, maybe, I'm not really a lawyer, but that's not what I'm here to do. Instead, I'm here to tell you the obvious, and that's that Halo 3 was a massive success at launch, taking the world by storm in ways even Bungie couldn't have imagined, and raking in all of that delicious 2007 money. That's $1,000 today. Saying Halo 3 was a success is pretty much an understatement. The game fucking ruled all of entertainment when it came out, making $130 million in its first 24 hours, which at the time was way more than any other sort of American entertainment. This shit did better than Star Wars and Titanic. What the fuck? It was even credited by certain publications as the point where video games finally hit the mainstream. Everything about Halo 3 would go on to accept multiple awards. Even the advertisements were getting gold medals. Microsoft's plan was such a success, and Bungie had something so special it would probably end up standing at the pinnacle of multiplayer gaming for decades to come. And all these years later, yeah, it still kinda has. Let's talk about it. The gameplay in Halo 3 is very similar to Halo 2's, essentially taking that game's feel and making it a bit more casual in a sense. The movement isn't as precise, the aiming isn't as snappy, but the bullet magnetism has been increased by a good amount. Basically, they wanted to level the playing field for competitive and casual players. Some of the more competitive crowds were really against these changes, especially the removal of their beloved combos. But the changes made did help to bring a wider audience to Halo, so it would be a while till the controls were more tuned to have a more competitive feel in mind. Personally, I really don't mind these changes, and I only tend to notice them when I play a match of 2, and a match of 3 is queued up directly after. Otherwise, I'm just fine. Though I do wish the BR felt a bit more accurate, but that's more of a gun thing. So hey, let's just start talking about them. In this game, we get the return of the AR, feeling like a tuned up version of her from Halo CE. The shotgun finally has its stopping power back, which is oh so satisfying. Dual wielding makes its return and is still kinda shit, but hey, they swapped out the needler for this new mini brute shotgun thing, which, you know, I like pretty good as a handheld fuck you in close quarters, and having the needler back to full strength is, you know, cool. I really can't complain about that, though I'm still not really sold on dual wielding. We got a few new grenades, including the spike grenade, which pretty much works, you know, exactly how the sticky does, but it doesn't bounce. So if you throw it and it sticks somewhere, it stays there. It's a more precision type grenade, which is really cool. Then we have the new firebomb, which is the exact opposite. This puppy explodes into a little pool of fire under the enemy's feet, sticking around long enough to catch the whole squad on fire. It's beautiful. But the Bungie devs weren't satisfied there. The players needed more variety, they said. And I don't know which one of these dickheads raised their hand and said, hey, what if we ripped off the turret and carried it like Rambo? But that man needs a raise immediately. This shit is so damn cool. Watching the Chief just rip off a UNSC or Covey turret to just get up close and personal and Swiss cheese a single solitary grunt with what's supposed to be an inaccurate crowd control gun? You can't miss a shot if you're an inch from the target. You know these bullets are expensive. He's just trying to save the UNFC some money, you know? By just breaking their shit. Also, TF2 came out exactly a month after Halo 3, which means 2007 was the year of the heavy gunmen, and I wish my 6-year-old self was more conscious about this, because I was missing out. But that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. As with this brand new style of weapon, we get 3-timing heavyweight champions stepping back in the ring, the Flamethrower! It's nowhere near as useful as it was in CE. In that game, I'd say this is like a top 3 gun, but in this one, it's just more of a novelty. It's low on ammo, you can't switch weapons with it, but I can't help but love it. And it has a new role as the ultimate weapon against a returning enemy. Though, for real, you and the firebomb have got to be in a modern Halo one day. You guys are just too fun. Oh, and speaking of fun, hello Marines! Excuse me everybody, but I have just a simple question to ask. Have you ever wanted a stronger, more accurate version of the Spanker rocket launcher? No? Well, too bad, Chuckle Nuts, it's here and it's licensed to fuck.
The Spartan laser is essentially Master Chief's Kamehameha. You charge it up, aim it, and boom, you're eviscerated. You can't tank this shit, even if you're in an actual tank. It doesn't have the spread damage or the surprise factor of the spanker, as you know, you gotta charge the thing and everybody can hear the sound and see the little dot, because you know, it's like a little dot. There is some skill and luck required to use this thing, which gives it a fun spot right beside the rockets instead of above them, which I prefer. Give us weapons that fill similar roles, but do it in a unique way. Which brings us to my actual child. The gravity hammer. Oh my baby, oh my boy! This is the weapon in Halo. Some people will clown on my boy because it's not as fast as the energy sword, or it's not as reliable, or there's no lunge, or it killed my wife, and it's true. Well, it's like 2 out of 3 true. It can't do those things, or at least to the extent of the sword. But you know what it can do? Everything else. This thing can stop a vehicle in its tracks. It can swing and hit multiple targets. It has the explosive power of a rocket, so it can send things flying. Oh, what else can it do? Oh, they can redirect rockets and grenades. This thing is so much fun for its versatility than some stupid ass sword. It's way cooler. My favorite Halo memory is one where me and my dad were playing around on Avalanche or whatever, and we were both in Hornets. It was a stalemate till I flew above him, jumped out, and slammed my hammer into the Hornet's cockpit, smashing it straight down, and the wings flew up above me. Top 10 coolest things I've ever done, to be honest. Oh, Avalanche is still one of my favorite levels. By the way, why the hell does MCC not have local co-op on PC? Do you know how lame I had to make this whole event look just by doing it myself in Forge? I tried to recreate it in some matches, but no, fucking ugh. Then we have another new element to the gameplay. Equipment. It's alright. It's basically just more tactical weapons, such as a drainer to sap shields and shut down vehicles, regenerator to heal up nearby shields, a bubble so many shield-based things. A bubble shield that keeps everything else out, which makes a great blocker, but also keeps everything in, like bullets and explosives, so, you know, be careful of that. A miniature sun that blinds the player, and a trip mine. I don't feel like I need to explain the trip mine, other than you can throw it and shoot it mid-air, which is badass. The new equipment aren't really all that game-changing, you know, but they add more variety to the combat, and allow the players to get a bit more creative in certain circumstances. I've seen a bubble shield completely turn a game around in the losing team's favor, and not because they used it to shield themselves, but because they threw it on top of the enemy with a rocket launcher and watched him blow himself and everyone trapped in the bubble into a red paste. Jesus, it's cool. And then we have the vehicles. They're about the same as Halo 2, but with some new additions and some substitutions. For one, the original Covenant Warthog has been replaced with a new Brute variant. We got the Chopper, which is awesome as it's basically a chainsaw-wielded behemoth that chops up everything in its path, but if you get behind it, it's vulnerable, so just try to juke it out from fire from behind. We got a mini version of the Warthog known as the Mongoose. Yeah, it's just a mini Warthog. But we also got a flying Warthog known as the Hornet. This thing is just so cool. It's got a chain gun, rocket, space for the boys, top 10 vehicle right here. Don't know why this is the only game it's in. And speaking of one game, the elephant. It's big. That's all it's got, but it is one of the coolest mobile bases ever. And hell, some people even use it like a pirate ship in custom games, so like, hell yeah, this thing needs to come back.
There's also new enemy-only vehicles like the Scarab, which is a full-on boss fight whenever one shows up. These are so cool. They're much better than the ones in Halo 2 because you have to cripple them, then climb aboard to blow it up. Or get a vehicle and take it down from the outside. I love this thing. And the anti-air rates, which have multiple cannon rapid fire, but you can't drive it. The Scarab I get, but come on, this would have been so cool. And it shoots green. I love green. The Covenant this time around are pretty much the same as last time, but instead of the elites, we have the brutes taking charge of the commando units, bringing out their savage tactics and their jury-rigged guns and vehicles with them. Love the contrast between the two species, and the brute chieftains wielding the gravity hammers being the new top threat of the Covenant ranks. Oh, I love it. I especially love the honorable mini-boss, you know, the one in that one level. That was so cool, but I totally cheese it every time. He's running at a man with a gun pointing at him. I love the hammer too, bro, but just like the sword elites, that's the worst way to do this. Rockets and grenades, man. Just rockets and the grenades. Plasma and bullets? No. The visuals this time around are fantastic. So many breathtaking vistas, beautiful hand-painted scenes, gorgeous architecture. The Covenant vehicles and armor are so cool looking. The Marine bases and capital ships are badass. Sure, things are a little when we get to faces, but that shit's hard in general. I can't blame a 10-plus-year-old game for something like that. The colors are so bright and so vibrant. The skyboxes are so gorgeous. I cannot stress how good this game looks. My favorite part of the documentaries was listening to the graphics team and the level designers just gush about how amazed they were to work with even the most basic elements in this new engine. They were shocked at how well made the realistic flowing water was. And they should be. That stuff was wild back then. It's a lot easier now, thankfully, but they should feel good about themselves. This looks great. Not to mention, the Halo 3 rat. I rest my case. And the music. Oh my god. It's so good. Beautiful. Well, there's no anniversary to really discuss this time, so I guess we'll skip it. I probably should make like a wish list or something, but honestly, just do Halo 2 Anniversary again. Like, literally, that's it. Just do it again. Get you a 3 multiplayer anniversary with like Forge, and you know, you're good. Hell, you're better than good, honestly. Oh, and do ODST while you're at it. Just make it one big combo game with Forge and Firefight Anniversary. Oh, that would be perfect. Or full remake. Just go off and do like an RE4 make or an FF7 remake, and I'm good with that too. We got MCC, the original is here to stay, so go get experimental. Or 3 Anniversary. Either way, I'm good. Please give me more ODST. I'm fucking starving for more of that shit. Oh, I can't wait for that video. Halo 3's multiplayer. It pretty much changed all perceptions of what one can be. We got all the modes from last time with new ones added, but we also got full armor customization added, which is fucking awesome. And MCC made it like 100 times better with all the alternate dimension stuff. We got Knight armor, Arcade ODST armor, Roman armor, Viking armor. Look at my fucking guy and tell me this isn't the coolest thing you've ever seen. I've low-key written a Norse Halo fanfiction story completely because this design dripped so damn hard. 2,000 subs. 2,000 subs and I'll write it and release it. Fuck yeah! And if you think the customization is only on the armor end, you're dead wrong. Because MCC also added vehicles and guns, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Forge mode and custom games. Literally the lifeblood of all Halos going forward. to the point where it's almost an immediate death sentence on any title that comes out without these at launch. Making and customizing your own levels with Forge and making these crazy ass games like Fat Kid or Infection and custom games, this is where Halo 3 stood above all other multiplayer games. Its file share system pretty much allowed its community to always be in touch with one another, playing all these crazy as hell game modes or doing donuts on their bootleg Mario Kart tracks. That's fucking awesome. This is what makes Halo Halo. It's all so beautiful, and you'll never hear about this level of user interactivity outside of like an MMO or something. But with these features, Halo 3 practically made itself an MMO and an online forum. People make whole ass levels just to like shoot the shit and talk. Like it's some sort of Power Rangers ass juice bar. Fucking Facebook Meta can't get this shit working, but here's Halo 3 doing it on accident. This is a beautiful accident of game design. Bungie should be forever proud of the system they created, and 343 should be proud that they were able to recreate that with MCC on PC and added more options like new weapons, armor, and mods. It makes all of it so fresh. This right here is a level of magic unseen by Halo's competitors, especially at the time. The only games that I can think of that are even close to this is like Minecraft and Roblox, which both of those are practically just game engines when you think about it. And when you think about coding and how it's being added to Infinite's Forge, I'd hazard to guess it won't be long before you see whole damn games made with it. And you have 3 to thank for starting all that. If there was a Nobel Prize-esque medal for this level of creative game design, I can think of a bunch of games that have earned it, and Halo 3 is definitely one of them. Bravo 2007 Bungie, bravo. Honestly, this feels like a good place to stop the video. I mean, we've covered all of Halo 3's masterful achievements. But then again, we're not even halfway through the meat of this game. And you know what that means? It's time for story. Skip here to stay unspoiled for the finale of the original Halo trilogy. It's admittedly got its flaws, but I still think it's something you need to experience for yourself. We start with a scene of what looks to be a shooting star falling towards the planet Earth, with narration from Cortana, saying that she was allowed to pick her guardian and she questions if she ever told Chief why she chose him. As the star crashes, it's revealed to be a stasis-locked Master Chief, who had just escaped from the Forerunner ship that the Prophets rode here to Earth. I'm sure that would have been a cool level, but alright, let's start small, we got a lot to cover. Johnson and his squad locate Chief, believing him to be unconscious, so they take Cortana's chip from his helmet, but...
We're not leaving him here.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces. Where is she, Chief? Where's Cortana?
If you remember, Cortana was left on High Charity to deal with the flood, as she didn't want to risk a remote detonation of the capital ship. But in the post-credits of 2, we see her talking to the Gravemind, hinting that she may have never gotten the chance to eliminate the flood. But before Chief gets a chance to fill in Johnson on Cortana's location, he notices a shimmer in the grove.
Chief, wait! The Arbiter's with us! Come on now. Got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
Were it so easy.
Yep, the Arbiter and his Swords of Sangheili have joined the Chief in their shared mission against the Covenant. The two sides group up at a nearby Marine base where we see Miranda and Hood discussing a plan to take down the Covenant as they have started a full-scale invasion of Earth, which includes a bit of excavating nearby in New Mombasa. They've found something. 2 things actually, the second being the Marine base, so Chief, Johnson, and Arbiter mount up to beat them back. And as they do, they end up getting a full view of the Covenant's excavation efforts nearby, including watching them open a portal to an unknown location. But that's not all they need to worry about.
Wherever Truth went. Sir, new contact slipping in.
What is it? More brutes?
Worse.
A flood-ridden cruiser lands on the planet's surface, unleashing the Horde, including some new mutated variants that can switch from a speed-based form to a power-based form, and even a range-based form at will, making the Flood a much more creative adversary. As Chief and Arbiter fight through the abominations with the swords backing them up, they get what looks to be a distress beacon coming from the cruiser. It's Cortana, or at least a message from her, claiming that the Flood are still kicking here on High Charity, and the key to stopping them is apparently on this arc thing that the dodgeball mentioned last time. Oh, and he's over there, by the way. And he's feeling pretty remorseful for his actions in CE, saying he should have been on Chief's side from the beginning. Yeah, nice to know you figured out genocide is bad only after we took your little super weapon away, bitch. Well, he fixes up the transmission and our crew of heroes band around the Swords Round Table to listen to it, with them disagreeing on what to do next, as Hood wants to stay here and fight the good fight, even reasoning that Cortana may be corrupted, which, judging by those weird-ass visions Chief keeps having, I'm going to say that's not impossible, but Shipmaster sets him straight.
Did you not hear? Your world is doomed. A flood army, a grave mother, has you in its sights. You barely survived a small contamination.
Keyes and Chief believe in this key that Cortana is talking about, and the elites and humans form up to take on what lies beyond the portal. Wait, how did a UNSC ship fit inside of... never mind. On the other side of the portal, they find themselves staring at the Ark, the place where all the rings were constructed and where the Prophet of Truth wants to begin his great journey by hitting the kill switch that will set off all the remaining rings simultaneously. Keyes' group heads down to the structure while the Shipmaster's group stays above to take on the remaining Covenant fleets.
Brute ships, staggered line, Shipmaster. They outnumber us 3-1. Then it is an even fight.
Damn, he is spitting today. Shipmaster solo game win. That is exactly what we need. Chief and crew land on the Ark, with some Marines questioning where in the universe we are, and if you take one look to the sky, you'll see your answer. We are in the center of the universe. I didn't even realize it had one. Chief and crew make their way through the Ark till they make it to a control room, having the monitor start hacking in to see where Truth may be located on the ring. As he's scanning through the data, he seems to go quiet for a second before being snapped out of it by the Chief. Kinda similarly to what Cortana did in the original. Huh, I wonder what he found. Well, that can wait, as the Prophet has started to activate the rings, leading RB and the Chief to go after him, only for the flood-infested High Charity to suddenly appear through slip space and touch down on the Ark. The two boys fighting their waves through a Covenant and Flood alike, they finally reach the room right before the Prophet, when the Grave Mind shows up, speaking through the body of a large Flood, making a proposition. That proposition being that the three of them should totally team up and take the Prophet down together! Yay! Yeah, Chief and Arbiter's heard this story before, but they are running out of time since the Brutes got Johnson in the in-between times and are about to activate the rings. Any reason they keep getting the important characters to do this? I'm pretty sure any grunt Marine can be used for this sort of thing. But then Keyes crashes through the window, saving Johnson, but she's unable to pull the trigger to Johnson and then herself to prevent the rings from firing, which, yeah, I get it. And sadly so does she, as Truth shoots her in the back and a brute grabs Johnson, and he's forced to activate the rings. But just then, boom, Chief, Arby, and the Floody boys barge in and make a mess of the place, deactivating the rings and sending Truth on a great journey of his own.
You must be silenced.
But of course, now that the Greater threat is taken out, the Grave Mind has no problem immediately hentying up the place, forcing our heroes to make their great escape. Johnson fires up the Pelican and fucking leaves us. The hell, man? After everything we've been through, you're fucking leaving us?
This is it,
It's for that one guy in the ring, isn't it? Whore.
Well, the boys make their escape in time to witness what caught 343's attention earlier. The Ark has nearly completed its construction on a new ring to replace the one that Chief and Cortana destroyed in CE. The heroes deduce that a misfire from this new ring could be enough to destroy the whole Ark, hopefully wiping out all the Flood, Gravemind included, so it can't spread anywhere else. Well, judging by the ship we saw land on Earth, I'd hazard to say that the Flood may already have reached other worlds, though we don't really know that. What we do know, though, is that if we want to fire the ring, we're going to need a key. No, not those ones. No, I mean a key as in the index, which if this ring is an exact replica, then the one we know Cortana has should be enough to fire it. With Chief given the go-ahead to scour the city for Cortana, he fights his way through as much gunk and as much infestation as he can, and seriously, it's a lot. The Flood are just as bad as they were in the last 2 games, so, watch out for this level. But he finally makes it to Cortana.
But so much of me is wrong. Out of place. You might be too late.
You know me. When I make a promise.
You keep it. I do know how to pick 'em.
Lucky me.
Sadly, their hellos are interrupted by the Gravemind, who now has telepathy, for some reason, and roars in the Chief's head, with Chief now overrun by the Flood as he makes his escape, only being able to get out of here thanks to the help of the Arbiter, wielding a fucking flamethrower against the Horde. The flamethrower is weak as fuck in this game, but against Flood, there is no better weapon. Same way there is no better partner for the Chief. Yeah, get shit on, Johnson! With the Flood now infesting the whole of the Ark, it's time to set our plans into motion. Master Chief, Arbiter, and Cortana land on the new ring, with Rebound Johnson and Sparky Boy joining them soon after, to bust their way in and use the Index to wipe out the Flood. As Johnson makes the preparations, Arbiter and Chief guard the door. As things are about to be set in motion, 343 realizes something.
In just a few more days.
We don't have a few more days.
But a premature firing will destroy the Ark.
Deal with it.
Will destroy this installation. Unacceptable! Unacceptable! Absolutely unacceptable! Protocol dictates action! I see now that helping you was wrong! You are the child of my makers, inheritor of all they left behind. You are Forerunner. But this ring is mine.
Now having to deal with the traitorous orb, Chief grabs Johnson's laser and spikes this bitch into oblivion. Okay, Chief, real talk, these assholes are betraying you left and right. You've got to be less trusting, bro. It's the 3rd game. Well, now that that obstacle's gone, Chief holds Sergeant Johnson, our best friend, our lover, in his arms. Oh, why? He was 1 game away from a girlfriend. No! Also, that's what you get for leaving me behind, asshole. Now sink into the abyss. Seriously, why did they have his corpse just fall off like that? That's just disrespectful. The ring, now being detonated by our hero's antics, leaves the main 3 to hop into a Warthog and have one last run to finish this game out. Dodging debris, explosions, and Flood alike, the 3 barely make it to the UNSC ship Johnson parked nearby.
Chief!
We'll make it.
It's been an honor serving with you, John.
How the fuck did Johnson drive through this the first time? We cut to a funeral set on Earth where Hood makes a nice speech and makes peace with the elites. Apparently there was a problem with the portal jump and only Arbiter's half of the ship made it to Earth. Hood laments the apparent passing of the Master Chief, but as Arbiter says,
Were it so easy.
We cut to see Chief on the other half of the ship just floating through space. He makes his way to a stasis pod so that he may wait out however long it takes to rescue him and Cortana. But before he goes under, he's sure to let his friend know,
Wake me when you need me.
And that's the end of Halo 3. Unless you got the legendary ending, which shows Chief and Cortana floating towards a strange-looking planet. But that's for another time. The story of Halo 3 is... it's pretty good. What? Wait, let me explain. No! Listen here, Chubby. You say some wild shit from time to 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 time. Okay, I get it, Chuckle Nuts, but for real, I know! Halo 3 is a masterpiece. There is literally nothing wrong with it at all. I mean, I don't know about all that. The story is included in that as well. It's a masterpiece, no, perfect finale for the OG trilogy. It gives a satisfying ending to all the storylines, tying everything into a perfect bow, and not to mention the heartfelt deaths of beloved characters like Miranda, Johnson, or Guilty Spark. And you know, finales are never really as good as the lead up, so I don't really think you can even complain about that, but that's just my opinion. I agree with a lot of what you just said. I agree that 3 is a great note to leave off the trilogy. It's got great stakes, wonderful characters, great action. It's got a lot of what Halo is best at. Kind of like Endgame, you know, as a movie, it's probably not the greatest, but as a finale, it's really good. I think Halo 3's in a similar spot. It's just missing some things that are kind of odd to leave out. Like the Grave Mine. I mean, sure, we telepathically interact with him, but like you tease this awesome monster to fight in the second game, and I don't get to fight him at all in the third game? Well, we don't even see him in this game. No, the Sugoi tentacles don't count. And Cortana, what's with all that shit with her in this game? We spent a majority of the game without her, which, you know, isn't a huge problem, but the devs specifically said in their interviews they wanted you, the player, to constantly be reminded of how you're missing Cortana. Which, I mean, yeah, I am, but these weird-ass telepathic scenes are weird, and I hate how they take control away from me, which is really ironic, because they made a huge point in those films about how they wanted the player to feel control in the real-time cutscenes. It's a huge point to them. But the thing is, I kind of wish that they did, because this shit got old quick. Though, I guess I did like learning about Cortana's shattered psyche, even though she's fine when you get her back in the final part of the game. Probably should have made the message just be Cortana and have her be a villain in the end. I mean, seriously, you're already clearly setting that up with all the terminals and the constant mentions of her potential to be corrupted. We know it's the Gravemind using the telepathy to send Cortana to Chief. The cutscenes work the same way. Though I will grant them that the flatline comment after the first one was pretty cool. But otherwise, I think these made me miss her a little less. And man, after all that torment, the first thing that happens to her after all the action is done is Chief freezing himself away while they float in an empty ship in the middle of lonely, lifeless, quiet space.
No wonder Cortana went crazy later on. You know she ain't doing so hot, big guy. Don't dip out of her now.
Then the deaths of most of the characters didn't really feel all that impactful to me. But you know, maybe that's just me. I feel like we barely know who Miranda Keyes is, you know? And having Johnson die was kind of just, eh? I did admittedly feel more sad about him than I did with Miranda, but I've seen you die multiple times. I've killed you multiple times, twice in cutscenes, so I admit I'm still kind of half expecting him to show up out of the blue one day. And Chief just looks at him and goes, "Oh, hey man, what's going on?" "Ah, nothing much, I just took a little vacation, lost a little weight, trying out some new color schemes, you know, yeah, I really like the red on you, bro." What the fuck, dude? What's going on? Because this is like nothing to Johnson. If they really wanted an impactful death to leave the trilogy on, I'd say Cortana would have been the best candidate. It's weird, it takes like 2 more main games for the evil Cortana plotline that was teased in this and 2 to really get started. And even then, I'm half sure it's got nothing to do with the grave miner or whoever this mendicant bias is. Like seriously, if I see another YouTube video about how he's the main villain of Halo 7, I'm gonna scream. They ain't bringing him back, boys, he's just a Cortana parallel. Though admittedly, I've not read the book, so And if you don't know, he's from the terminals, which are found in the arc levels of this game. The storyline is actually pretty interesting as we watch these 2 forerunners, the librarian and the didact, argue about what to do about the flood, with bias being one of the didact's solutions till it goes rogue after a while due to rampancy. So that plan fails, and now he just kind of stalks Chief and shit talks Guilty Spark, which is creepy and really funny to be honest. But I feel like this is mostly just to set up Cortana stuff. Evil Cortana's been a thing since CE's development. They clearly wanted it to happen, but they ran out of time, so they left it on the table for somebody else. Maybe they wanted to keep things, you know, safe for Halo 3. I can think of a few factors that might have had an influence on that decision. Ironically, the one thing that exemplifies my point the most is the Arbiter. You know how I mentioned last time that Arbiter taking up half the campaign was controversial, but later he became beloved? Well, Halo 3 started development during the whole controversial portion because my man has been demoted to background character. The only way to play as him now is with a player 2, which admittedly is pretty cool, but story-wise my man doesn't get to say or do anything. Johnson has more lines than he does. In the final fight, instead of helping Chief, he's just awkwardly walking in the frame and is like, "Hey guys, is everything okay?" Remember that moment in the story where Hood gets on Shipmaster's case about glassing a quarter of Africa? Shipmaster goes on to say that it was the Arbiter's call, and if not for him, the whole world would be glassed. Which, hey, cool exchange and all, and Shipmaster is a great character, but why didn't Arbiter step in to clarify? I mean, he's not a silent protagonist. He was very well spoken last time, and here he's practically mute. Which is weird, because he's technically has stuff to do. He has this little background arc with Johnson about the Marines and the Elites having to team up and work together. And it worked well as a background thing going on, but why not let Arbiter and Johnson have a level where they see this type of struggle firsthand? There are some parts of the game where Arbiter leaves to go do something, so why not just follow him for a little while? And there's also some parts of the game where he's trying to convince some Covenant troops to stop believing in the Prophet's lies. That would be a fun thing to follow. Or just have him have more to say once in a while. I'm fine with him not having his own plotline, but at least let him emote some more. You get Keith David back to provide them fantastic vocals, and most of it's just death gargles. He's not the silent type like Chief is right now. Though their silent mutual respect was pretty nice. They got a cool bond by the end of the game that I really liked. I also liked how this game tied up most of the plot points into a fairly nice little bow on top of a fantastic finale. We're against the Flood on what's basically a super ring, with the return of the OG ring from Halo CE, Arbiter and Chief fighting back to back together against it all. The Covenant is gone, the Flood is gone. All known threats are practically taken care of, and Chief goes back right where he was when this whole thing started. It's a great ending. I just think as a story, maybe the bow had some loose ends that needed some better wrapping. It's an amazing campaign, just probably not the best Halo story. But that's just my opinion, of course. All of this is really just my opinion. You don't have to, like, agree with me and stuff. That's completely fine. Yeah, I guess that's fair. How would you rank Halo 3, by the way? Oh, it's on the higher end of the tier. Though, I guess I'm really trying not to rank these, you know? Better than 2? Yeah, I guess I like it better than 2. Better than Reach? Well, we'll get there, but yeah, I guess I say I do. Better than 5? Alright, that is a whole conversation that we don't have time for. But that's Halo 3, everybody. A fantastic title worth all of the praise it's garnered over the years. Its visuals are amazing, its gameplay is fantastic, its music is euphoric, and the story is pretty good. If you got like $10 and want to experience something just beautiful, Halo 3 is the game for you. It really has earned its title amongst some of the best games ever made. It's truly an achievement for multiplayer in general. Most new ones that come out today don't come with near the amount of content that Halo 3 did, and that's all down to that beautiful Forge system. You give your community the reins to make all the content for you, and you just supplement it with new updates, your game will last forever. It's a type of lightning in a bottle some would kill to replicate. Also, I don't like Halo 5's story, okay? Don't come at me, alright? We'll talk about it. We'll get there, goddammit, we'll get there!